I would always feel like, oh, my chances of being cast in this thing are not as great because I'm Asian. And they'd be like, oh, that's not true. There's all, like you have Asian shows as well as those white shows. And it's like, it's not true.
If X amount of your orchestra is already Asian, like how many more Asian people will you actually take, unfortunately? It almost breeds greater competition, unfortunately, amongst Asian Americans because I so often wonder if the quota has been met.
They kind of don't see me in the same way that I see myself. If you're Asian and you're trying to be an actress, there's mostly roles of like being a white guy's girlfriend or like a fresh off the boat Asian who's a prostitute who could barely speak English. And it's like, granted, those are some people's realities, but it's not anything remotely close to mine.
I'm sure when I go to a jam station, no one's gonna assume that I play an instrument, or just because of, in that world there aren't too many people that look like me.
Asian diasporas globally often feel ignored, forgotten, stereotyped, overlooked. The arts have always been a way to showcase the complexity of the human experience. It's one of the ways to humanize people and their communities.
But unfortunately, biases from society also affect arts communities.
We gathered a group of artists from different mediums to talk about their experiences pursuing the arts.
Inevitably, their identities as AAPI or as Asian diaspora meant they had added hurdles and complications just to do what they love.
My name is Joyce Keokham. I'm a writer, director, and poet.
Yeah, my name is Jessica Wu. I started off as an actor, and now I'm mostly a writer and director.
My name is Kushal. I grew up in New Zealand. I play tenor saxophone.
I'm Alice Tsui. I'm a pianist and I'm a music teacher in the New York City public school system.
When did you start pursuing what you are pursuing right now?
I guess I've always been writing and writing poetry as well since I was very young, but I never thought of doing it publicly or for a career. I was finishing up my bachelor's program. I got a degree in computer science and I was interning for this software company. And I realized I really did not like doing that. But on the other hand, I also really enjoy how unique everyone's experiences are, and I really enjoyed storytelling. So I decided that I just wanted to start acting. I was just like, this is different enough and it seems more creative and more fulfilling in that sense. So I would leave my internship and go to do all these auditions. So I spent like the first year acting, and then I learned how to produce, and then I would write all these side stories on the side, just like mainly drawing inspiration from my real life. And then I finally just decided to start like directing and actualizing all the things that I had written.
Yeah, so I started playing saxophone when I was in high school, when I was about, I think, 15 or so. And so, yeah, just studying saxophone kind of led me to Charlie Parker and a Piece of the Puzzle, and I was just kind of obsessed about the saxophone after that. And yeah, luckily I had some friends in high school who I played with. But yeah, I knew by about the age of 16, 17 that I was wanting to like pursue music as a career.
I guess I found my love of music from a really young age, and my mom would sing a lot of Chinese opera in the house, and my dad was just a big music lover, actually of a lot of American music. And when I was 4 years old, I was invited by my mom to take piano lessons, and my parents don't play instruments. I remember knowing that if I was going to start, that it was going to be a commitment, and that also I got to pick out my own piano. So I remember the piano being delivered, and my mom like kneeled down next to the bench next to me and then just basically made me promise that I was really gonna commit to playing. And I felt like that was a really approachable, inviting way to start my journey of music making. It was never like you have to practice an hour, 2 hours or whatever. And then just over time, I just kind of fell into it on my own.
So when I was looking at colleges, I was like 15 or 16, and I remember going online on like, on the internet and looking up like Broadway. How do you go to Broadway? Or how do you like become a performer? I think I had to like make a pretty big choice to like actually just be like, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna go to New York. I'm going to go to school for it. And so I think when I was like 15 or 16, when I first had to look at colleges, if I remember correctly, I think there were maybe 2 or 3 Asian people in my program, in my college program. I think that was probably the first time I realized that how different I really was. And I just remember like, you know, college professors, especially in musical theater, like, oh, these are the roles that you should be going in for. This is what you're right for. Oh, it's, you know, surprise, surprise, it's the king and I. Oh, it's Miss Saigon. And I feel like my world got a lot smaller when I came to college. I think, I don't know if it really occurred to me when I was a teenager that I was that different, and then it felt like it got put on me when I went to college, that like these are things that you're marketable for, and this is what people see you as, and that I think was really sad.
I think it was really hard because, especially when you want to do work in front of the camera, if you're Asian, they kind of don't see me in the same way that I see myself. Like if you're Asian and you're trying to be an actress, there's mostly roles of like being a white guy's girlfriend or like a fresh off the boat Asian who's a prostitute who could barely speak English. And it's like, granted, those are some people's realities, but it's not anything remotely close to mine. And if there was any role that I felt like I related to, it was kind of more white leaning, like they were trying to cast like the all-American white girl, like the girl next door. And it was just like, but an Asian person can play this too. And like, it just felt like all my auditions were very limited. And that's why I made the transition into producing, because I was like, the odds of someone needing an Asian actress are very slim. And so like, when I started producing, it was just like, wow, I have so much more power to influence change. And my work is also more consistent because it doesn't matter if I'm Asian or white as a producer versus on camera.
I wanted to ask you, like, is there a certain aspect of music that you think is like the reason why you like it so much? Like, what about it did you like when you were younger, and do you like about it now?
For me, I think now that I look back on it, it was kind of a way to be like part of a group. So I was born in India, as I said, and I moved to New Zealand when I was 8 years old. I think there was like a certain amount of alienation I felt, you know, being from India, living in New Zealand. But I felt like music just transcended that. Like if you could play, you know, that's all that mattered. So I think that really stuck with me in those first few years.
What draws me to music and why I love it so much is because it's a way for me to express my emotions, but without saying them out loud. For me, and as an Asian American, I certainly wasn't taught to express my feelings. So when I felt mad, I went to go play piano. When I felt upset, I went to play. When I was really joyful, I went to play. And every time it would sound different. Or if you don't imbue your own emotional sense into what you're playing, then you're not really creating music at all. You're just being robotic. But we all have the power to put ourselves in the music, whether it is music written from a long time ago or music that you create.
How does you being Asian American kind of affect you being a musician as well?
For me, I don't think I associated race with music for a long time, but as I met a lot of fellow classical musicians who also happen to be Asian American, and especially now when I reflect on that, I just think how jarring, honestly, it is that we are all becoming experts or attempting to become experts at Western classical music. Success would often be determined by playing X level piece by Beethoven or this concerto by Rachmaninoff or whoever. Part of the battle that I take on is diversifying curriculum and playing more by people who look either like myself or like other people who I just never learned about as a kid. Like I really can't name a lot of composers of color that I played as a kid, not even Asian, just any composers of color. I think the other thing is just disrupting the idea that when we think of the model minority myth, for example, and Asian Americans who are musicians, that they are only succeeding because they're playing Western classical music, as if pop or rap or hip hop or any other genre is lesser than.
What's your favorite part about storytelling?
My favorite part about storytelling is that it creates so much pathways for understanding. I feel like every story is a reference, and with all the stories that currently exist, I don't think that there is enough material for people to really understand me and a lot of people who look and feel like me. So the more stories we tell, the more references we're creating for other people to draw from. I like have this attitude where if it's like, if someone's not going to do something right, then I'm just going to do it myself. So it's like after going to enough auditions, then I was just like, okay, no more of that. I'm going to do it myself. And I don't know if it has to do more so with being Asian or being like born a gendered woman or like socialized as a woman, that maybe people see women, especially during auditions, and feel like they could take advantage of them. That like kind of made me feel very like, I'm gonna do this myself and I'm not going to subject myself to other people anymore.
There was some sort of like disconnect as to like how I felt like I fitted in the bigger picture.
Being an actor, I was demoralized a lot because of the auditions that I was invited to go to, and the writing didn't resonate with me. And as a director, it's kind of cool to just have power to actualize.
You can't create without knowing who you are, and teachers can't teach without knowing who you are either.
Definitely, you want to think that I can do anything, but in the back of your head, you're like, oh, well, there's somebody out there telling me that I can't, or I'm better for something else, and it just happens to be like the things that are Asian.
Hi, my name is Mari.
My name is Seiji, and we directed and produced this video.
If you like this video and want to support more AAPI creators and content like the one you just saw, then connect with us with our socials linked down below.
And if you can, please consider subscribing and liking this video, and consider donating. Thanks.
Thank you.